And Sean-Eric Byrne wins.
Yes. Oh! Redemption.
Stoffel Van Dorn wins the Rome E-Prix.
Radio check.
Can boost if you haven't used it.
What the is that?
What? Oh, red minus 12.
Good morning and welcome to qualifying for round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Once again, we're about to go green in Valencia. We're just a few kilometres west of the Spanish port. Yesterday's race was one of the most dramatic, one of the most entertaining, but some might say one of the most controversial races we've ever had. So here to unravel everything that went down yesterday here in Valencia at the iconic Ricardo Tormo circuit is Nikki Shields.
Round 5 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, and Stoffel Van Dorn started from the back of the grid for a tyre infringement, despite being fastest in Superpole, leaving Antonio Felix da Costa to lead off the Valencia E-Prix for DS Techeetah. Tag Heuer Porsche's Andre Lotterer was locked in a battle with Norman Nato, but it was Sebastian Buemi who paid the price.
Once again, Lotterer getting involved in a crash.
Having started 7th on the grid, Nick de Vries began a steady climb through the field. First with a great move around the outside of Alex Lynn at turn 4. Then past second placed Maximilian Günther.
The Dutchman is carving his way up the field.
Günther was clearly struggling in the wet conditions. Next pass was Mahindra Racing's Alex Lynn.
They're still wheel to wheel. Brilliant racing, and Lynn is through. Absolutely fantastic stuff, and Lynn is now up into 3rd position.
Then the floodgates opened, with Nissan Edam's Oliver Rowland following suit for P4.
That's good job. No more attack mode behind, so you can focus ahead.
Under the watchful eye of team boss Dilbag Gill, Alexander Sims also slid past in his Mahindra.
Nice work from Alexander Sims. Makes his way up into 5th position.
Günther's got no pace in these conditions. He's really struggling, and he's dropping down to 6th.
And things went from bad to worse for BMW I Andretti, with yet another early exit for Günther, his 3rd crash of the season.
Rear locked solid.
Safety car is deployed. You will not go anywhere like this.
The mini-electric safety car was kept busy in damp conditions, with Jaguar Racing's championship contender Mitch Evans running at mid-pack. The Kiwi collected Sergio Sette Camera, ending both their races prematurely.
Wow! Can't believe, man!
Andre Lotterer again made the headlines, this time helping Rocket Venturi Racing's Eduardo Mortara on his way.
It's not been a good day for Andre Lotterer, is it? And his sort of season of woe seems to continue.
With da Costa leading de Vries, the race continued for 1 lap longer than many were expecting, and half the field had got the energy management maths wrong.
Lynn's in the red, Bird's in the red, Dennis in the red, Turvey in the red. There's another lap. None of them have energy. Yeah, this is an absolute catastrophe.
You need to save, we need to go to the end.
Oh my god. It's over. I'm done.
Mercedes EQ got their homework right, and de Vries claimed a 2nd win of the season.
Well done, mate. Mega job. That's how you win an F3 race. Right there.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy.
A surprise 2nd place for Dragon Penske Autosport's Nico Müller. But even more surprised to be on the podium was Stoffel Van Dorn, who'd started from the very back. Mercedes EQ top of the class with Nick de Vries and Stoffel Van Dorn up to 1st and 2nd in the championship, replacing Jaguar teammates Bird and Evans. What a difference a race makes.
Karun Chandok, you've raced in many motor racing series, including Formula E. Have you ever seen an end to a race quite like that?
Well, I was thinking back, I was in a GP2 race in 2008 where we all ran out of fuel on the final lap, and that was a bit like that. But what the difference here is I think this is where I'll try and explain to people at home, is that they actually didn't run out of battery. You know, most of these cars came back here and they had about 40% of battery left. There's a difference between the amount of battery power and usable energy, which is in the rules. It's a regulatory thing where they have an X amount, 52 kilowatt hours for the start of the race. Now what happens is as the race progresses, every time there's a safety car, the race director, it's at his discretion to reduce that target. And I think that's right broadly, because it means that, energy management is a part of the race all the way through, and it's part of the strategy of Formula E. But I think what caught everyone off guard yesterday, when the last safety car came out, I think at 1 minute 35 they said the safety car was coming in, and all of the teams were, I think, hoping, or most of the teams apart from Mercedes were hoping, that they wouldn't reduce the energy that much. But the decision was made to do that, and therefore it caught, as I said, it caught everyone apart from, I guess, Muller. Envision Virgin were a little bit closer than Mercedes, and everyone else got caught out. So it seemed to be, just unfortunate, the timing of it all and the way the rules worked out.
But it's interesting you explain, and very well, by the way, the amount of energy in the battery, because it would be ridiculous if the FIA said, right, let's run the battery dry and all the cars stop, because that's a health and safety issue. So they have an amount of energy that they can use for the race, which is programmed into the car. And then every time there's a safety car, an amount of energy is removed. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's removed on paper. It's a number that's set. It's not actually physically drained from it.
Yeah.
And I think, listen, motor racing is hugely complex. It doesn't matter whatever category, and this is where the difference between what we call state of charge, i.e. the charge in your battery, like it is on your phone, it's the same thing. And they ended the race with 40% battery capacity left. So, yeah, it was complicated, and obviously not ideal for a lot of people.
Well, Antonio Felix da Costa was leading from the moment we went green, and he got overtaken, obviously, by pretty much everyone. And he's got a little bit of flack. He's received a little bit of flack in the way that he drove after the safety car. So let's go over to Nikki, who's with Mark Preston, his team principal.
I am indeed. Mark Preston, obviously a lot went on yesterday. Just talk us through, first of all, can you just explain to us the reason that we saw the race ending early for some of the cars, but the difference between the rules and how much energy you have to work with within the race, but actually the cars didn't necessarily run out of energy on track, did they?
Yeah, correct. They didn't run out of energy on track. When the safety car or full course yellow happens, in the past, what we did was we allowed the guys to continue under full course yellow and not reduce the total allowable energy they could use. But what that meant was if we had a lot of safety car period or a lot of full course yellow, then after that they'd been saving, and then they could go flat out till the end of the race, which meant there was kind of no overtaking or nothing happening after those big, long safety car and full course yellow periods. So it was agreed that when the cars were under full course yellow or safety car, after that the FIA would reduce the amount of energy the driver was allowed to use. So the battery still had energy, it's just now he was not allowed to use all of that extra energy in order to make the racing sort of exciting at the end, because then people still had to save energy. But yesterday, with so many safety cars, the safety car actually, we have to use a bit more energy than under full course yellow, so there was a lot more safety cars than full course yellows.
Yeah.
So the calculations started to change a reasonable amount as well, which was different to previous races. Then, because the safety car this time, different to Rome, it's turned its lights off at turn 7 and 8. At that point, there's only a certain amount of time to come around to the start-finish line. At that point, there can be a decision made by both by the driver and the team and by the FIA as to how much energy they're going to reduce when we cross the line. We assumed they wouldn't reduce the whole amount of energy, so Antonio came to the line, let's say, too quickly, and then triggered another lap. And the FIA then reduced the energy, and then that wasn't enough, of course. So it was a bit of a, combination of things happened.
And a difficult situation, obviously, for Antonio Felix da Costa, because, he was kind of controlling the race, but couldn't really do anything about it.
It all didn't work out in the end.
Thank you so much, Mark Preston. Over to you, Vernon.
Right, thanks, Nikki. Thank you very much indeed. Let's put that to bed, Karun. That's done. It's over. It's qualifying. The conditions are completely different. Let's take a look at the track, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, look, we had a wet start to the day. It rained overnight. You could see there's bits of it here are starting to dry.
Go on, Matt, get in there, our cameraman, have a butcher's.
There's certain dry patches, but also the sun's sort of coming in and out of the clouds. And I think this is where it's going to get tricky, because unfortunately for those in Group 1, they've got the worst conditions. And as this is going to be a session that unquestionably favours those in Group 4.
It's interesting that James Barclay yesterday, you know, Jaguar were at the top of the team's championship prior to yesterday's race, and he was saying, you know, we've not really got the perfect setup for today. Let's go today, but let's concentrate on tomorrow. So this is a big day for Jaguar.
Yeah, and they're in Group 1 with both cars. So unfortunately, I think, you know, they're already on the back foot just in terms of being in that position. But we'll have to see how the race unfolds. You know, I don't think there's any more rain forecast.
Well, don't say that.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't. Well,
don't tempt fate. Anything can happen in Formula E.
I said the same yesterday, and then we got on the grid and we got drenched. So, yeah, clearly I need to get a new app for my weather.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Karun. Let's get onto the track, shall we, with Porsche's reserve driver, Simon de Silvestro.
Welcome to the Ricardo Tormo permanent racetrack. It's a little bit different than any other Formula E tracks because it is permanent. Some wide open corners, some tight corners. It's going to be an exciting one. Here we are at turn 1. Entry is actually pretty tight. It's a big commitment corner, so you really have to commit to the corner. I think it's going to be quite a tricky one to make a lot of lap time because it's quite a fast corner. And the exit as well, there's no wall there, so you are going to have to really be careful with the track limit, keep your left wheels on the white line. Turn 2, for me, is the best passing opportunity. You're coming off turn 1, which is a really quick corner, so you're going to play a little bit with the arrow behind it, and you're going to come here into a big braking zone, so the passing opportunity is going to be really good. You have a little bit of banking as well, that can help you on the inside line. I think there's going to be quite a lot of defending here as well, so I think a lot of action will happen in turn 2. Turn 3 is flat left, with camber into turn 4, which is pretty quick. Then a really long turn 5, patient on the throttle out of it. In turn 6 we are getting a little bit more in Formula E territory. We see here that there's a bit of asphalt change, so there's a pretty big drain here, and we can see when we try to overtake somebody it's going to be quite bumpy. But the biggest challenge for me is going to be this painted part here. The apex is going to be quite blind here, so it's going to be quite tricky, but I think the trickiest part is really the exit. You see this wall really kind of coming out, so you have to be really precise when you're going to the exit, trying to maximize the speed on power. Also, I think there's going to be a lot of people going really close to that wall at the exit. Turn 7 is more of a flat out left-hand kink. Turn 8 is the most difficult corner. Track elevation, meaning it falls away. You can't see the apex. Entry speed is crucial. To make it more complicated, this is where the attack mode activation zone sits, giving the two very different lines into the extremely tight hairpin turn 9. No curbs or clear apex again for turn 10, and you need to be on the power early as you into the long flat out left, that's 11, which tightens up for turn 12. Turn 13, there's no real reference turning in, so it's going to be really difficult. You're going to get really close to this wall and to the next wall. It's going to be a really good passing zone going into it, but it's going to be really tight, and you need a really good exit as well because the straightaway is really long. Out of the final chicane, it's a short sprint to cross the finish line, and that is the 15-turn, 3.376 kilometers of pure racetrack for the Valencia E-Prix.
The Valencia E-Prix, round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. As you can see, not the most pleasant of days. This was a little bit earlier on in downtown Valencia, down by the port, the biggest port in the Mediterranean in Valencia. And now we are going to be seeing some very entertaining qualifying action at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, named after the World Championship winner, the Spanish World Championship winner in motorcycle racing. And qualifying Group 1 is going to be the top 6 in the championship, out in what is almost certain to be the slipperiest conditions out there. There you can see the dark track. It's going to be slippery for the drivers in Group 1, and it looks like it'll get drier and drier as the session progresses. So that's what is going to be quite interesting, is I wonder what track evolution will be like in the first part of qualifying. Alongside me is Karun Chandok. Karun, is this one where you really want to be last over the line, or is it not going to make too much difference over the course of 4 minutes? Some of them are going already.
I think they have to go already because they all want to do 2 laps. So typically In a qualifying session, if those of you haven't seen one before in Formula E, they all get 1 lap at the highest power mode at 250 kilowatts. So what they're doing now is they're going to do a lap first in effectively the race mode at 200 kilowatts, less power, but it gives the drivers a chance to really gauge what the track conditions are like. The drivers need to get a feel of what's underneath them. How dry is it? How late can they brake? Where are the bits of water, if there is any standing water left? So that's what they're all doing. You know, we see on a dry session sometimes they wait and they just go out and do their 1 high power lap. On this occasion, it's massively important for the driver's memory bank to lodge just what the grip level's like.
So in the championship standings, it is Nick de Vries at the top on 57 points. He is 9 points clear of Stoffel Vandoorne, his Mercedes EQ teammate. Sam Bird is third on 43 points. Robin Freitz is fourth, also on 43. Evans is fifth on 39. Wehrlein is sixth on 32. So those are the 6 we have out in the championship now, and they're going to be doing their best in this session, but it's almost out-qualifying each other is kind of as good as they can hope for in this session.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, it's highly unlikely any of these guys are going to make it a super pole. A little bit of spray there as they come out of the right-hander of turn 10 and climb the crest to 11. So there's a very low chance any of them are going to make it to super pole. What they've got to be careful of, actually, is not to trip up over each other when they get to the quick lap. You know, these 4 cars are running around very close to each other. Wehrlein and Vandoorne have disappeared off up the road, but these 4 cars are running around quite close to each other. Nick de Vries and the Jaguars weaving around to get some temperature into their tires. You can see the spray just coming off the surface still, so it's not a completely dry track, and certainly down at turn 1 you can see on the racing line it's still quite damp. The sun is hinting about, you know, it's thinking about coming out, but yeah. In a battle against the clouds.
To speed up a bit.
9-second margin now.
So de Vries being told he's got a 9-second margin. He's also been told on the radio to stay in front of the Jaguars. So they're not too fussed about being the last in the queue in this particular session. So,
but a 9-second margin is quite critical for Robin Freins at the back of that queue, because if he needs to back off from those cars in front and give himself a space, if de Vries only has a 9-second margin, it means that Freins can only back off up to that 9 seconds. Yeah. So it's it will get a bit tricky, and they've got to push on here.
And he's 2 seconds behind him at the moment on the track, just using my rough counting in my head. So that gives Freins a sort of 7-second margin, and everyone will start to slow down towards the end of the lap. So we'll keep an eye out on Freins. Him and his race engineer Bertrand Famine will be working on that. James Barkley there, Ian James, team principal of Mercedes EQ, Sylvain Filippi, managing director of the Envision Virgin Racing team. Here comes Pascal Wehrlein, gets on the power out of the final corner. Emil Lindsay, the boss of the Tag Heuer Porsche squad, watching there. But it'll be Stoffel Vandoorne that will watch on this opening lap. The Mercedes driver took pole position yesterday to all intents and purposes, was sent to the back of the grid for a clerical error, but he did take pole. He was the quickest driver yesterday, and we'll see what he can do today. Coming up now, up into turn 2.
Yeah, beautiful sort of almost a drift really through turn 1. Just nicely balanced there, the back of the car really sticking with him. He went quite deep though at turn 2, you know, so still on almost a wet line at turn 2. Again at turn 4 using a wider apex than we've seen from other people. So Stoffel in the first intermediate, he is actually slower. Nick de Vries is the man who set the fastest first sector time. Vandoorne and Wehrlein very similar at sort of 2/10 away, same as Freins and Bird. So far, 1/3 away around the lap, it's advantage de Vries.
Evans, everybody made it across the line. Evans is the slowest in the first sector, as Nick de Vries, who we now turn our attention to, race winner from yesterday, championship leader as he was after the first 2 rounds in Diriyah. We'll get the middle sector split in a moment. It's a good one for Wehrlein. It's a bad one from Vandoorne. Wehrlein is about 4/10 quicker than Van Dorn in the middle sector. In fact, half a second quicker than Van Dorn in the middle sector. Van Dorn is going to be right at the back here. Checker flag falls. Verline sets a 1:33.745. Van Dorn is going to be next across the line. Here's Nick de Vries coming through the final chicane, and Van Dorn is 6/10 away from Pascal Verline. Across the line comes de Vries, and he goes 4th, slower than Van Dorn. Evans goes 2nd. Freitz goes 3rd, Bird remains in 6th position, so huge divergence of pace in that final sector. De Vries was 6/10 slower than Verline.
That's a
huge split across the sectors.
Great lap from Verline. Really, really good lap from Verline. He wasn't the quickest in sector 1, but he really got it together in the second 2/3 of the lap. And he's ended up, I mean, that's quite a margin ahead of the championship leader. If you look at where de Vries is, 6/10, and you know, there's only 3,000 between the two Mercedes EQ drivers, Van Dorn and de Vries. So it's a good effort there from Pascal Verline. I don't know if it'll be enough for him to progress into the next part of qualifying, but certainly from a race perspective, we're going to now have de Vries, Bird and Van Dorn, 3 of the drivers who are at the top 3 of the championship, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, starting, I'm fairly sure, outside the top 10.
And this was the weekend where everybody said, and I wrote a little piece on the Formula E website previewing this weekend, where it was like, the championship contenders will emerge, because if you're in Group 1, it won't be too bad. You can go out, you can get a good qualifying, and you can win, and we'll see the kind of picture appear. But then, no, it'll rain, and then the Group 1 is the worst one to be in after all. So good job from Pascal Verline, as you say, who's been quite impressive in qualifying so far this season. 2nd on the grid in round 1 in Diriyah, 3rd on the grid in race 4 in Rome, 9th yesterday after going out in Group 1, and I think was the 2nd quickest in Group 1 yesterday.
Yeah, he needs a result, doesn't he? He and the team, you know, Porsche haven't had a great start to their season. Although Verline, you know, he is 6th in the championship after yesterday, so he's, you know, he's there or thereabouts, isn't he? He's got 32 points, only 16 off Van Dorn in 2nd at the moment. So he's, you know, a good result today can certainly propel him into contention.
So this is the classification at the end of the first group of qualifying. Pascal Verline quickest, but quite a big spread in between that group. So Verline might be able to get sort of towards the top 10 even potentially with that lap, but the track will just get better and better. Evans 2nd, championship is de Vries 5th after the first 6 cars. Qualifying Group 2, René Rast, Nico Müller, Eduardo Mortara, Jean-Eric Verne, Alexander Sims and Antonio Felix da Costa. The big sort of surprise in this is Nico Müller, who before yesterday had a best position of 5th place in the 2nd race in Diriyah. Let's go and catch up with the team principal of Mercedes-Benz EQ. Nikki?
Thanks, Jack. Ian James, after a superb performance yesterday, times aren't quite what we were expecting today.
No, we always knew it was going to be tough coming into Quali 1. As much as I've been moaning about the weather since arriving here in Spain, actually the sun's not really done us any favours at all today. So I think we're going to see some pretty strong progression over the Quali groups. And obviously being in Quali 1, we were very much hamstrung at this stage.
I mean, are you surprised? I think Stoffel's about sort of 6th, 7th and 10th off Pascal Verline.
Yeah, I think it's a strong lap from Pascal, no doubt about that whatsoever. The guys are going to be clearly disappointed, but listening on the radio there, I think the feeling was there wasn't much more to come out of it. So yeah, disappointed, but maybe not surprised.
All right, thanks very much, Ian
Thank
James.
you.
So Ian James, good to hear from him. And here you can see Antonio Felix da Costa, who has been racing sort of side by side with Eduardo Mortara in the first half of the lap. Now he's trying to keep Alexander Sims behind him in the Mahindra team. Steelback Gill, team boss of the Mahindra squad. Nick Heidfeld in there behind. Mark Preston at the DS Techeetah team. But we also, we might even get to the stages where some of these cars towards the end of the group, their preparation laps might be quicker than some of the laps in Group 1 ultimately. But a 1:33, it's not miles off the dry pace, but yes, you know, considering the fastest lap of the race yesterday, I think was a 1:39 for Robin Freitz. So it's much drier than the race yesterday. But all of these drivers are now on their prep laps.
Well, we'll have to see, because on their prep laps in Group 1, they were doing 1:39s, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, it is much drier. Of course it's much drier than yesterday. We see a big snap of oversteer there. I think it was Verne as he came into turn 2. Nico Müller, as you said, at the back of this pack here behind Sims. They're all pushing on. And look, the sun's come out. As Ian James said, it's really not helped the Mercedes EQ drivers, because it's just going to make it so much drier and better for the following groups. I would say the one who's really in the pound seat, looking at the group allocation in Group 4, is got to be Alex Lynn. He was a driver who was very quick yesterday in the dry, in practice and qualifying, and he's the favourite, I think.
So the 6 drivers in qualifying Group 2 about to start their flying laps. There's Alexander Sims, who was really impressive in the race yesterday. Speaking to Mahindra a moment ago, they said third was in the bag. We had third, no problem at all. We weren't going to catch the race leaders, but third was a pretty strong performance until the energy chaos at the end. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne then, 2-time champion in season 4 and 5 for the DS Techeetah team. Has been out-qualified mostly this season by Antonio Felix da Costa, his teammate and the champion from last year. But we'll see what Verne can do here. Coming charging down towards turn 1. Throws it into the left-hander. Everybody is going to be fairly safely through and across the line without any trouble. Verne up into 2.
So Jev also going quite deep there at turn 2. Clearly the inside doesn't yet have the grip. Most of these drivers believing René Rast using a slightly tighter line, but up at turn 4 now. We'll get the first sector time for Jean-Eric Verne, and he's up 31.9, so unsurprisingly quicker than everybody else. Rast matching him in that first sector, and we'll see shortly. Da Costa's actually a little bit down, so Mortara, Rast and Verne pretty much equal in that first sector. Up towards turn 8. Oh, he's gone deep. Jev's gone really deep. I don't know if he caught a little bit of a damp patch there. The rear of the car stepped out of line and put him away from where he would have wanted to be. And that would have compromised his line for turn 9 as well. So he would have dropped some lap time. We could see, despite that error, he's still a long way quicker than Rast. But Da Costa's the man in the middle sector, 2/10 quicker than Jean-Eric Verne.
Alexander Sims on a good lap as well. Nico Müller is 2/10 down from Wehrlein. So here they come into the final corners now. Jean-Eric Verne on the power in the DS Techeetah, comes across the line and goes quickest, half a second clear of Pascal Wehrlein despite that error. Who's going to be next across the line? It's René Rast who goes third behind Wehrlein. Mortara goes 4th. Da Costa gets up into 2nd place. Sims now goes up into 2nd position. Nico Müller comes through the final turn and he goes 12th, slowest of anyone for the 2nd place man in the race yesterday. So Verne, Sims, Da Costa, Wehrlein, Rast, Mortara, the top 6. And then Evans, Freitz, Van Dorn, De Vries, Bird and Müller, the rest of the drivers mostly from Group 1.
I think Da Costa must have made an error somewhere in the last sector. He lost 6/10 to Verne in the last sector alone, so he's obviously made some sort of an error, and that's cost him badly. You know, for a guy who, you know, led most of the race yesterday, all but the last lap, I think. That'll hurt. Here, this was Jean-Eric Verne up at turn 8. So despite running deep and wide there, he obviously still managed to carry enough momentum and bring the car back across to get through turn 9 in a reasonable way. So will it be enough for him to keep progressing? We'll see how much the track evolves. Obviously, Wehrlein, as you mentioned, Jack, Wehrlein's time half a second slower. So that was sort of the track evolution between the first and second group, half second.
So 12 drivers have completed their laps. Jean-Eric Verne quickest, 0.3 of a second ahead of Alexander Sims for the Mahindra Racing Team. Antonio Felix da Costa still, despite that error in the final sector, inside the top 3. Pascal Wehrlein in 4th, René Rast 5th, Eduardo Mortara in 6th position. So as it stands, those are the 6 that would progress through to Superpole, but we're only halfway through the session. Mitch Evans, Robin Freund, Stoffel van Dorn, Nick de Vries, Sam Bird and Nico Muller missing out at the moment and are going to be starting a long, long way down towards the back of the order. But as we say, still got 12 more drivers to come and conditions are just getting better and better. So here's qualifying group 3 and 4. Nick Cassidy and Oliver Rowland, Sergio Sette Camera, Max Günther, De Grassi and Sebastian Buemi will be in qualifying group 3. And then in group 4, who surely will have the driest track conditions, the 2 Neos, the Mahindra of Alex Lynn, the BMW of Jake Dennis, the Rocket Venturi racing car of Norman Nato, and the Porsche of Andre Lotterer, who could be in for a strong afternoon. Lucas De Grassi getting ready to head out on circuit in Group 3. The 36-year-old Brazilian from Sao Paulo in his 75th Formula E race, in the 75th Formula E race. Let's find out more about Jaguar. Nikki.
Yeah, I'm here with Mitch Evans and James Barclay. Mitch, we've just seen that you've been pushed out of Superpole. How tough is it going to be to make it back up in the race?
That'll be tough. I mean, it's no surprise. You know, the track is damp but drying out. I mean, Group 1's tough at the best of times, but now we've got a drying track. So obviously going to be down the back. I was second in group. Wasn't too bad. Obviously, 3/10 off Wehrlein is not ideal, but look, that's all we could really do. And now we're just going to have to, you know, suffer with all the other groups going faster. But it's where it rolls.
James Barclay, I know you guys have been working hard over the course of the evening, doing lots of number crunching, I'm guessing. When it comes to energy management today, is the strategy going to be all right? We're going to get to the end of the race?
Well, actually, we had really good progress in the race yesterday. So, Nikki, I think actually one thing we do as a team is really kind of race well, and it all comes down to the conditions. I mean, if we get any more rain later on today, if it's a drying track, it'll be more to the energy, if you like, kind of extended strategy we're expecting. But yeah, listen, it is what it is. It'll be the same for everybody, and we're looking forward to going racing.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys.
3 minutes left on the clock. We might end up with the sort of slipstreaming race we were anticipating yesterday. It's not really relevant for qualifying, but I'm going to say it because I heard it. They reckon, some of the teams estimate, it takes 1.7 kilowatts, roughly, to do a lap in race mode around here. Some of the teams think you can save 0.7 kilowatts a lap using the slipstream, which is a huge chunk. That's why they're so sort of obsessed with getting the slipstream. But that's for later. All of these drivers are about to start their preparation laps now, and there's some really strong drivers in this group too. But will the track be, how much quicker will the track be getting? Because it doesn't, you know, it's, I presume tracks don't get linearly quicker. You know, it can be better at some times and then a lot better at other times.
Yeah, but in a condition like this, where it's, you know, it's a drying track and the sun's now come out, it will just keep improving. You know, the last across the line will have the best track conditions. There's no question about it. But you still have to do the lap. You know, we saw Wehrlein in Group 1 still quicker than some of the drivers in Group 2, for example. So, you know, it's not a given. The drivers still have to do the actual lap as quickly as they can and see where that puts them. But, you know, common logic suggests that track conditions-wise, the guy who's last will have the best conditions.
One of my most random things this morning, Nick Cassidy there. So 7 minutes before 10. So how long ago was that? Half an hour ago. He slid into my Instagram DMs and said, "Did you see my socks?" I've got no idea what he's talking about.
Did you steal his socks?
I don't know. I don't think so. So suddenly, Nick Cassidy, who's out there now, has some kind of socks on.
Hasn't got socks on.
Yeah, maybe he hasn't got socks on. Oh yeah, maybe he's asking me because he can't find them. Who knows?
Who knows?
Right, they're about to turn up to full power.
But now you've told the world that you're friends. Oh, that's cute.
No, I'm not. I didn't say we're friends. We're not friends because he's messaging me on Instagram. I don't have his phone number, so I think that shows we're not friends. 35 minutes to go. 35 seconds to go. Everyone should be able to make it across the line. Sergio Sette Camera is the last driver to turn it up to full power. Here comes Rowland down towards turn 1. His teammate Sebastian Buemi following him. Then it's Nick Cassidy. Then it is Max Günther. What? A little bit twitchy through turn 1 for Buemi, the Swiss, whose race ended on lap 1 yesterday.
Yeah, he got completely harpooned at the turn 9 hairpin by Andre Lautre. Roland really hustling the car there, so he's on a bit of a mission. He was having a very good race yesterday. He and Alexander Sims were sort of working their way through the pack, and I thought they were both in great shape. But Cassidy, the man in the first sector, a stunning opening sector, 4/10ths quicker than Roland, 3/10ths quicker than Buemi. So we're riding on board with Sebastian Buemi, heading down the back straight towards turn 8, but the guy behind him, Nick Cassidy, is so far the one to watch. Here we go, and this is Cassidy, bang on cue through turn 8, using slightly a wider line again than we saw from Buemi, but that was pretty neat and tidy through 9.
De Grassi's had a really poor first sector, 7/10ths slower than Jean-Eric Verne. Cassidy's now a second up on Verne after the middle sector, whereas Buemi is only a 10th up. Roland is about the same as Verne. Cassidy's having a laugh out here. Here come the two Nissans through the final couple of corners. Roland is going to be first across the line, and the British driver, he jumps up into second place ahead of Alexander Sims. Buemi goes third. Here comes Nick Cassidy, the New Zealander, goes 11th.
No, he had a terrible final sector. He must have gone off the track.
He's lost 2 seconds in the final sector, Nick Cassidy. Gunter goes into 5th place as he looks to be in Super Pole again. And Lucas de Grassi goes 17th.
And this is what I was saying, Jack. Just because the conditions are better, you still have to do the lap. Sette Camera has gone 4th there, but Cassidy and de Grassi will be kicking themselves because Cassidy especially would have been comfortably quickest by over a second, and that would have, I think, put him into Super Pole because, yeah, well, not guaranteed, but it would have put him in contention at least.
Every other person in Group 4 would have had to have gone
exactly. He will be absolutely good. And de Grassi, I don't know what happened in the last sector as well. Oh no, de Grassi was across the board actually. De Grassi evenly slow across all 3 sectors, particularly the middle one. No, actually, sector 1, de Grassi, sorry.
Yeah. Here's what happened to Cassidy at 12.
Oh, got on the curb. He got on the curb, too wide, and then just ran off track. Oh, that was, he'll be gutted with that because Nick, Nick would know immediately, I shouldn't have tried to break that far out wide and on the curb, and you can see the team. They've got live telemetry. They immediately know that the opportunity's been lost there.
So Cassidy, 13th, behind his teammate Robin Freitz, despite being 7/10ths quicker in Sector 1 and another 7/10ths quicker in Sector 2 compared to his teammate. It all went away in the final sector. So, only 6 drivers to come. Jean-Eric Verne, Oliver Roland, Sebastian Buemi, Sergio Sette Camera, Alexander Sims and Max Gunter are the 6 drivers that are going to be, at the moment, advancing through to Super Pole. Da Costa 7th for DS Techeetah. Pascal Wehrlein still there in 8th place. Okay, let's say he gets shuffled down by another 6 positions. That's still kind of 14th on the grid, which is not bad for a Group 1 on a drying track. But as I say, there are still 6 more drivers to come. De Grassi, Muller really struggling in the latter groups. So, 6 more drivers to come. 2 Neos, the Mahindra of Alex Lynn, the BMW of Jake Dennis, the Venturi of Norman Nato, and the Tag Heuer Porsche of Andre Lotterer. But for now, let's go and find out what's going on with Sergio Sette Camera up into 4th place, Nikki.
Yeah, I'm here with Jay Penske from Dragon Penske Autosport. Jay, I mean, phenomenal result for Sergio Sette Camera. Looks like he'll be, fingers crossed, going into Super Pole.
Yeah, I think the line continues to get better, so that's drying out a bit, so we'll see what happens here with the final 6, but a very good lap for him, especially against the peers that he was racing with, so it's still his rookie season. He's put on a hell of a lap there.
And obviously, Nico Müller, fantastic day yesterday with his podium. Not so good in the session today. What happened in his lap?
Yeah, during his lap in Sector 3, his glove got caught on the rotary switch and unfortunately went from 250 power down to 200 and just killed the lap. So it ended our day prematurely there. So we'll do the best we can and hopefully come back from the back to the front again.
That is incredibly unlucky. Well, fingers crossed for this session, and you make one of the drivers into Super Pole. Thanks so much, Jay.
Yeah, that's true about Nico Müller. He wasn't a million miles away in sectors 1 and 2. He was, you know, a couple of tenths off here and there, but was around about the drivers around him. But then his final sector was a long way adrift. So frustration there for Müller, doing the final part of the lap in the wrong power mode. Right, can Jake Dennis get a good qualifying session out of this one? The youngster has a very strong junior single-seater career, but his best qualifying position was 13th yesterday. But this is a prime position, a prime opportunity for him to get a really good qualifying result on the board.
In a car that's very competitive over one lap.
Yeah.
You know, Gunther was very strong yesterday in qualifying, so he's got a car underneath him. Andre Lotre also, I think, has a car underneath him. I mean, look at Wehrlein sitting there in the back of the garage. You know, his time from Group 1 is still P7.
Yeah.
That shows actually what a good lap he did, and therefore what a good car they've got actually for one lap here. So you know, there'll be all eyes in that garage on Andre to try and capitalize on that car that he's got.
Susie Wolf, team principal of the Venturi team, as they come across the line and start their preparation lap for Norman Nato, who started second on the grid in the second race in Rome. And then you've got the Neos coming down of Turvey and Blomqvist. And Turvey, who's pulled out some great laps in the past. You think of his pole position in Mexico City in season 4.
Okay, maximum push for the prep.
Cyril Blythe telling Alex Lynn maximum push for the preparation lap. Six more drivers to come. And Alex Lynn is at the back of the field of this group. Can these drivers on the driest track, and you can see there's barely any spray now or anything like that compared to the drivers that were out in Group 1.
Yeah, Lynn's given himself, you know, he's the last in the queue, so he should be in a prime position to make use of this here. Yeah, as you say, I mean, the track 33.1, Jack, that is still what, 6 or so seconds slower than what we had yesterday in a full dry condition. So there's still, you know, a little bit of moisture out there, but yeah, significantly better. I mean, look, just the sunshine and having the cars run around it will have helped to clean it up.
Right, here we go then. Jake Dennis in the BMW I Andretti. The 25-year-old comes into the first corner now.
Sawing at the wheel as he came through that first corner, looking for bits of dry track to break for turn 2. He's pretty much back towards the dry line now through that apex of 2, in using plenty of curb. The inside of 3 now dropping downhill a little bit through 4. We'll get the first sector time in a moment, and he has obviously set the fastest of anybody in this group so far. What's Lotre got? Yeah, a little bit quicker for Andre Lotre. So Lotre so far 31.1. He's got to keep it going.
These are all really big first sectors, aren't they? Norman Nato is 9 tenths quicker than Jean-Eric Verne, so there's a big jump from Group 3 to Group 4 almost. Turvey's half a second up in Sector 1. We'll see what Alex Lynn can do. He's only 6 tenths up, but it feels like, this 6 will be the 6 in Super Pole, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're all massively up on Jean-Eric Bernstein, so it's a bit of a no-brainer, I think, for these guys. But they've got to finish the lap. Look, we saw with Cassidy, we saw, you know, with De Grassi, I don't think got his lap done as well. So Dennis is going to get his lap done. He comes through the chicane, neat and tidy through there, good traction on the way out. So he should set the benchmark with a 31.8. This is Lotre now. So their position doesn't really matter at this stage. They've just got to make sure they get in that top 6 to get into Super Pole.
Dennis is into Super Pole for the first time in his Formula E career. Jake Dennis will be into that top 6 shootout. Norman Nato slots into 3rd place We've still got Turvey to come. He goes third ahead of Nato. Then it's Blomqvist. And then it will be Alex Lynn. So there we go. The top 6 will be all from Group 4 on the driest part of the track. It's the 6 drivers with the least championship points will be starting at the front of the field. We're in for an entertaining afternoon, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, there's... but, you know, because of the way the first 5 rounds have run and drivers have had incidents and lost points, people like Lynn, Dennis, and Lotra, and Nato, frankly,
yeah,
you know, they've all got cars which should be quick enough to win the race. You know, if they're starting at the front, they should all have cars that are quick enough and efficient enough, crucially, to win the race. And this is opportunity. They've got to grab the opportunity with 2 hands here.
Yeah.
You know, and it'll catapult them up the championship order.
So here's a look at how qualifying has ended in the group format anyway. That's also points for Jake Dennis. His first points of no, he got those yesterday, but he picks up 1 point for topping group qualifying. Lotterer, Lynn, Blomqvist, Turvey and Nato. 4 British drivers in the top 6, which is good, but it also meant 4 British drivers in the bottom 6 of the championship, I suppose. Jean-Eric Verne, 7th. Oliver Rowland in 8th. Watch for those drivers coming through in the field later on. Pascal Wehrlein from Group 1, 13th position. Not too bad for him. Championship leader Nick de Vries. He will start 23rd on the grid because he has a 3-place grid penalty as well. So it is going to be a remarkable afternoon later on today.
Big shouts and cheers in the Neo garage, and rightly so. Christian Silks, team principal of Neo. Both your drivers into Superpole.
Yeah, let's try and make a habit of this one.
You look shocked.
It's so many ups and downs in this formula.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we love about it. You know, 1 minute you're hero, 1 minute you're zero. We knew we had a good chance going to Superpole, to get into Superpole, but we knew the engineers had to get it right to get there. And it's been a stressful hour sort of trying to judge track conditions, but the team did a really good job. So we picked ourselves up from yesterday and they've done a really good job, so I'm really pleased with the job. And obviously the drivers performed when it mattered, so yes, let's see what happens now.
Excellent. Well, I will let you get back
Thank you very much.
and watch the boys. Thanks so much.
So good to hear from Christian Silk, the team principal of the Neo squad. Now, the later you go out in this Superpole session is also going to be crucial. So when you said it didn't matter what position you were in Superpole, obviously correct, you just got to be in the top 6. But if you're quickest, you get to go out last.
Yeah.
So Jake Dennis will be the last driver out on a drying track.
Yes, yeah, I must admit I forgot that part.
So I'm not criticizing, but this is how he did it, down towards turn 1.
I'm just listening in, yeah, quite some way before the corner. He was off the gas there and really sawing at the ways. Look at those dry patches he's hunting around for the braking. And again, as he gets into the corner, just looking for any... When you're in the car at this phase, all you're looking for are those little dry bits to just give you a bit of bite and give you a bit of grip. And you try and aim the trajectory of the car to get there, and you sort of hop from dry patch to dry patch, and he's done a great job of it there. You can see, you know, because it doesn't dry evenly, of course, across the track. And, you know, that's exactly what Jake has done. Through turn 6, it's actually a bit of concrete that they put down for that corner, and it did seem to have a drier line than some of the asphalt for whatever reason. So a bit wide into 8, he had a little bit of a slide coming in, but gathered it all up nicely, made sure he got the line right and got it stopped for 9. And very close to the wall, wasn't he? At the apex of 10, climbing up the hill. And this is where we saw Cassidy try and brake wider. Look at the angle at which Dennis has braked at, you know, from the middle of the road across the track. Really hunted around for the grip. He's driven very well here, you know, very controlled, and tries to get as straight a line as possible to accelerate out of that final apex up to the line.
So that's a point for Jake Dennis, top of group qualifying. So 6 drivers about to go and do battle for pole position for round 6 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. The DHL Valencia E-Prix coming up this afternoon. Race gets underway at 2 o'clock local time here in Valencia. It's currently 10:30, so 3.5 hours time. And the action will begin, and it will be the 4 bottom drivers in the championship that will be starting at the front of the order. But in what order? That is the question. Norman Nato will be the first driver out on track. He qualified second on the grid last time, and this is his team principal.
Together, because in one of the sectors he was down by a second, so hopefully we can recover now in Super Bowl.
And obviously it was a tough race yesterday. What have you guys been working on ahead of today's race?
I think tough race yesterday is even an understatement. It was for us
the toughest.
Yeah, very, very bad day, but that's the beauty when you have a double header. You can learn and then reset, and obviously today we need to go for it and try and get some points. It was difficult yesterday.
All right, brilliant. Thanks very much. Good luck for Super Bowl.
So Susie Wolf then. Yeah, tough race yesterday was a bit of an understatement, wasn't it? But these are the Super Pole drivers. Norman Nato, Oliver Turvey, Tom Blomqvist, Alex Lynn, Andre Lotterer and Jake Dennis. And there is Jake Dennis. Having a chat to one of his mechanics. A little bit of a drink as Norman Nato makes his way to the exit of the pit lane. No prep lap for them on this lap. It's just an out lap and then a flying lap. Alex Lynn going through to the Super Pole session as well in the Mahindra. The Mahindras looked very, very strong yesterday. So and Lynn qualified well yesterday. In fact, that is going to be his 3rd Super Pole appearance of the season, isn't it, for Alex Lynn? Back-to-back Super Pole appearances now. In Diriyah round 1, 4th in Valencia yesterday. What can he do today? Looking to take his... as far as pole positions achieved, Nato doesn't have a pole position. Oliver Turvey has 1. Blomqvist doesn't have a pole position. Alex Lynn has 1. Andre Lotterer has 1. And Jake Dennis has none. No, I think Andre Lotterer has 2, actually. I will consult my notes. But it's going to be a rare person on the front of the grid. Whatever happens, Andre Lotterer, yeah, has 2 pole positions, 1 for the DS Techeetah team in Rome in season 5, and then 1 for the Porsche team, thank you, in
Are you feeling
Mexico
okay?
City last year. Yeah, no, I'm fine, we're good. Are you feeling okay?
Well, no, it's just, you know, you looked a bit lost there.
Well, I can't remember what team he drives for. But he drives a Porsche. Anyway, here come Rocket Venturi, who have the same hardware as Mercedes, but it's a different software that they that run, or you know, it's not exactly the same as the Mercedes package. Obviously, a lower budget than the Works Mercedes team as well, because they are essentially a customer team of Mercedes. But the fundamental hardware under the back of that car is very impressive, and we've seen Eduardo Mortara perform strongly with it this season. We saw Norman Nato at the last race in Rome almost get to the end of the race and finish on the podium, but this is a good chance for the Frenchman from Cannes to get a good result, doing his best to try and get some temperature into the tyres on the outlap. But I guess you don't want to be, if there's a drying line, you don't want to be weaving around in all the wet bits to try and heat up the tyres.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're going to have to push a bit more on their outlaps in this Super Pole, unlike they do. You know, normally they're trying to keep the tyres cool as much as possible for their hot lap in Super Pole. On this occasion, they're trying to get temperature in it because the surface itself has that water on it still. But here we go. Nato accelerating out of the final corner, uses plenty of road, just stays out of the grass as he heads down towards turn 1. So see to the left of your screen, Oliver Turvey's already queuing up, but we're watching Nato now. Again, lots of hand action as he saws his way through turn 1. How tight does he go at turn 2? They're coming more and more closer to that inside curb and the dry line. It is, from the helicopter shot, we can see it quite distinctly now, isn't it? The dry line. And this is a voyage of discovery in some ways for the drivers, because they've got one lap to kind of risk all, and Nato risking plenty there, nearly in the gravel coming out of turn 5. He's certainly pushing hard, a little bit tighter in terms of the line coming into turn 6 than we've seen from most other people. A 30.5. It's obviously the fastest first sector we've seen of anybody, but we'll have to see how that goes compared to the others. Has a slide on the way into 8. It's an odd one, turn 8, because as you come in, it seems dry, and then it still seems to have a bit of dampness as you drop down that curve at turn 8.
Quickest middle sector as well, naturally, for Nato as he comes towards turn 12 now. Turns in through the left-hander, and now towards the final chicane. It's been neat and tidy for sure. No real big moments for Nato, which is an important part of it when it comes down to Super Pole. Comes across the line right out to the grass, and it's a 1 minute 30.489. To put that into perspective, that's almost 3 seconds quicker now than Jean-Eric Verne managed in Group 2, and it is 4 seconds quicker than the drivers were doing in the first group of qualifying. So Nato on provisional pole position, but 5 more drivers to come. Here's a funny one. Nick Cassidy is under investigation for exceeding track limits at turn 12 when he went off and was almost in the gravel. So yeah, he probably did go off track limits, to be fair. So we'll see whether, hopefully he doesn't get his lap time deleted for that, because that would be a bit mad. But there we go. There goes Nato. Nato said on the radio, "It's drying so quickly, we have no chance of staying fastest." That was Nato's opinion. And I guess he's had a direct comparison from about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. But from his standpoint, starting P6 is still a good position for the race.
Well, if you'd have offered any of the bottom 4 in the championship a Super Pole appearance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I get, I fully get the racing driver in him is thinking, well, okay, I've done my time, but I'm going to get bumped down the order, and that is frustrating. But actually, big picture, it's still going to be a very good position to start.
Tom Blomqvist next up in the Oliver Turvey next up in the Neo 333 car. 1 pole position for him in his Formula E career at Mexico City on what was his 30th birthday. Broke down from the lead of the race in that one. Now he comes through 3 and 4. We'll get a sector split compared to Nato for Turvey, and he's a 10th up on Nato in sector 1. A lot more, well no, I was going to say a lot more margin than Nato through that right-hander of 5, but he did get right up to the gravel in the end.
Yeah, using just a different line to Nato, I think, so it did look a bit different on the way in, but he certainly committed to the power on the way out and accelerated out of the corner up towards turn 8. Goes in a bit tight on the way in. Nicely held there to bring the car across to the left-hand side. That turn 9 is so slow. It's massively important to bring the car over to the left before you turn into that turn 9 around the barrier and give yourself the width. But he's actually slower than Nato in the middle sector. So as much as Nato thought he's going to get bumped down the order, unless Turvey can pull back 2/10 in this last sector, Nato might hang on.
Through the right and the left, out to the line, and Oliver Turvey cuts the timing beam and does go quickest by 800ths. So not a huge margin, but he found that time in the final sector compared to Norman Nato, and it's now Turvey on provisional pole position. Nato in second, and it'll be his teammate Tom Blomqvist in the other Neo that will go out next of all. And the 2 Neos running together on track quite often. He loves a thumbs up, Christian, doesn't he? Love it, every time. Great stuff. There is Turvey coming up to 6.
And if he gets fan boost, that'll be a nice bonus for him as well.
Yes. Is he still leading the fan boost or in the top 5? I need to have a look. But
I know you've been his campaign manager for it, I feel. So
well, it's just not. He's a nice. I genuinely had a conversation with him in Rome, and I asked him if he had any fans, and he said no. He said in Japan he has a few because of his time racing out there, but in general he said no, not really. So there we go. But he's a nice boy, so he deserves some fans. Anyway, his teammate Tom Blomqvist is out on track as well, coming through the cut through. I know he's coming through the final corner now, and time to start a lap for Blomqvist, who has a best qualifying in his Formula E career of 5th position, and that came this year, earlier this year at Diriyah.
He had a big slide at the apex early, Jack. At the, I think he touched the inside curb, and the rear stepped out of line. He caught it, but it would have certainly caught his attention. We'll see how that affects the sector time when he comes through turns 4 and 5. We'll see. So the benchmark at the moment is obviously Oliver Turvey's time, and Nato is up ahead of him by just under a tenth.
So Blomqvist quickest of anyone in that first sector. Screeching through the left-hander of 6.
He didn't use as much road on the way in as Turvey. Turvey was all the way across to the right of the track and gave himself a wider radius, so slightly tighter line for Blomqvist. And he's gone quite wide there, much wider than we've seen from the other two. We'll see. By using a wider line, you can sometimes carry a bit more speed, just by doing a wider arc. But I think it's compromised him. He's down at the moment, isn't he?
Well, he's 3 tenths up on Turvey's time. He's slower than Norman Nato in the middle sector. But Turvey didn't have a great middle sector. Here he comes towards the final couple of corners now, so this should be able to send him to the top of the times, Tom Blomqvist. And that would secure his best ever qualifying performance. Comes across the line and he is quickest at 1:30.202. So he will start at worst 4th on the grid, which will be his best ever qualifying for the in Formula E, after he's been with a couple of teams, raced with the Jaguar team at the end of last year, raced with Andretti a few years before that, but now he is at the top of the times for Neo 333, just ahead of Oliver Turvey. Norman Nato in 3rd position. That was him at turn 1, where he still went a fraction quicker than, but here's the thing with the Neo car, it's not the quickest car out there, so they've done a great job to sort of recover from where they were last year. But when you look at the Mahindra, the Porsche and the BMW that are coming, that's where the real big hitters are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think these guys will be, it's a good boost for them, isn't it? As you say, they're one of the smaller teams in Formula E, and the fact that they've got both cars, potentially, well, they are going to have both cars in the top 5 of the grid, is a nice boost for them.
Right, here comes Alex Lynn. 1 pole position in his Formula E career, in his first ever race in New York City at the end of season 3, when he made his debut for the Virgin team, filling in for, I've committed to this, was it Jose Maria Lopez, I think, who was doing a World Endurance Championship race? Fingers crossed it was. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He's up into turn 2 now, Alex Lynn. And his best qualifying so far this season was a 6th position in Diriyah. We're on board with him now, rumbling over the curbs. Even just the amount they're using the curbs is getting more and more dramatic.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming much more back towards the dry line. And Lynn, even yesterday, we saw, he is the driver, I think, that uses the most of the inside curves. And why wouldn't you, actually? Some of those corners, it does give you a shorter line. It opens the radius up a little bit. You can carry more momentum. But you have to have a car that's got compliance and allows you to attack those curves. Look at them there. It's a very tight line. But it worked for him yesterday. I saw him doing that yesterday in the complete dry conditions, and it worked well for him. And so far, comfortably fastest of anybody in the first 2 sectors. He's going to go to the top, about half a second up already on Blomqvist's time.
Through turn 12 comes Alex Lynn. Final chicane. The right and then the left, and then on the power. Cuts the timing beam, and in the end, he does go quicker by still just 4 tenths of a second. So most of it came in the middle sector, that advantage for Alex Lynn. It's still Oliver Turvey who has the fastest final sector of anyone so far. So now Lotterer and Dennis are the 2 that can try and depose Alex Lynn from pole position. So
good job, everyone. Thank you.
Good job, everyone, says Alex Lynn. But it's a good lap from Lynn. Don't get me wrong, not knocking it, but is that you feel like it's not going to be enough with Lotterer and Dennis coming and the track getting drier.
I mean, Lotterer's got a great chance here to put all of his woes from the last couple of rounds behind him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
This is, you know, he really didn't have a very good day yesterday. And it could be a bit of redemption for him here by hooking this lap together and then making use of it in the race.
Here he comes then. The German starts his lap now. Former Le Mans winner. Never won a race in Formula E. He's been second on the podium on 5 separate occasions. Never won a race. He's had 2 pole positions. He's been on the front row this season, and we're on board with driver's eye as we come towards turn 2.
Using plenty of curb on the way in, neat and tidy through there. And we'll see how much curb he uses on the inside here of 4, but he doesn't commit as much as Lin does. Uses the blue and white curbs, but he is quicker than Lin so far by about a 10th in sector 1. So I would say that's about right for Track Evolution, you know, in terms of he's 2 laps later than Lin, obviously, you know, in terms of running. And yeah, being a 10th up, he's sort of tracking the Track Evolution, I'd say.
Yeah, the middle sector split on the exit of turn 8. Here he comes through 8 now. The sort of the bit between 8, 9, 10 seems, or just 8 and 9 really, seems the dampest part. Whoa, I love that right up to the wall every time.
Yeah, but he's down though. He wasn't as good as Lin was through 8 and 9. In fact, I think he was a little bit wide at turn 9, which is what's hurt his sector time. So he's gone from being a 10th quicker to being nearly a 10th slower. So Lin's middle sector certainly was very good. Let's see if the run through the chicane is going to be enough for Andre Lotterer to get to the front row.
Here comes the Porsche driver across the line now, and it is quicker than Lin by 0.3 of a second. Really strong final sector from Lotterer, 0.4 quicker than anyone else, and the Porsche will get another front row start. His second of the season. Will it be pole position? It'll be him or the BMW of Jake Dennis that will start on pole for the DHL Valencia E-Prix later on this afternoon. Lotterer quickest, Lin second, Blomqvist third, Turvey fourth, Nato in 5th position. So interesting lap that from Lotterer, sort of up and down really, wasn't it? Middle sector not.
Yeah, he locked up there at 6.
Yeah, I was still wet at turn 9 in the hairpin.
Copy that. Okay. Yeah, but he locked up there at 6, and this is now we're seeing at 8, 9. I did see, look, he went in okay, and then had a bit of a slide there. And then when he got to 9, he was a little bit too wide, I think, for the apex compared to Lin, which cost him a bit of time. So there we go, Jake Dennis, it's all in your hands.
Yeah.
This pole is there for the taking, isn't it?
Certainly is. Here comes the BMW I Andretti Motorsport driver over the line and down towards turn 1. His swings it into the left. His last pole position came in the Blancpain GT Series Endurance Cup in 2018 when he was racing for our Motorsport. His last single-seater pole position, well, came in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship of 2015.
And his first sector is looking very good for him to get his first Formula E pole. He needs to just keep this going for the rest of the lap. Nearly 0.3 up on Lotterer's time in sector 1 alone, and we know that Andre had a bit of a wobble in middle sector at turns 6 and 9. So Jake Dennis needs to just keep it clean and tidy. Oh, sawing at the wheel on the way into 8, but gathers it all up nicely into 9. Gave himself a little bit of a margin to that inside barrier, but that's okay. He can still keep it going, keep pushing on, and so far, yeah, look at that, nearly 0.7 up. Okay, at this point, if you're the engineers in the BMW garage, you should be on the radio to him saying, right, you're 0.7 up, just do a safe final sector, and you should be on pole.
Here comes Jake Dennis into the final 2 corners. Through the right, through the left, the British driver in his 6th Formula E race is surely going to take his first pole position in the series by 0.8 of a second. A 1 minute 28.548, a really good lap from Jake Dennis. Absolutely the class of the field in that one. 0.8 clear of Lotterer. there's sort of 3 tenths, 4 tenths between the drivers as they went out, and it's an 8-tenth gap for Jake Dennis.
Oh boys, that feels so good. That feels so good. Oh, mega job. And yeah, copy of the brake integrals.
Yeah, don't forget those brake integrals. Fantastic stuff from Jake Dennis. His last single-seater pole position, October 2015 at Hockenheim, the last race of the Formula 3 championship season. He out-qualified Felix Rosenqvist, Antonio Giovinazzi, Charles Leclerc, Lance Stroll, George Russell, Alex Albon and Max Günther to take pole position. He can do one lap, can't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's some names on that list, that's for sure.
It was a remarkable season of Formula 3. So Jake Dennis will start on pole position for round 6 later on. And him and Lotterer first and second, Lynn in third, and then whether we'll have what we had in Diriyah with the Neo 333s being a little bit of a, you know, stopper in the bottle potentially, because they will struggle more than some of the front runners behind for efficiency. So that'll be fascinating to see how the race unfolds in what looks like it's going to be bone dry. Have you checked your weather app recently?
No, I'm giving up on it. I mean, literally, yesterday he told me it was going to be a dry race, and then Bern and I go wet on the grid because we didn't have umbrellas initially, and then I stole somebody's. And then today he told me it was going to be raining, and the sun's come out.
Yeah.
It's a terrible app.
Yeah, there we go. Jake Dennis then, pole position for the BMW I Andretti Motorsport team, and that in the team's history of Andretti, that is their 8th pole position for the team, and Jake Dennis is first for the squad. His teammate Max Günther down in 24th place. I don't think he got a lap in, Max Günther. Not 100% sure what happened. He's 8.7 seconds off the pace, so whether it got deleted, I'm not entirely certain. 4 British drivers in the top 5 on the grid, so there's some local interest if you're watching in the UK. This is how the grid will line up. Pole position, Jake Dennis, 8 tenths of a second clear of Andre Lotterer in second place. Then third will be Alex Lynn, fourth Tom Blomqvist, fifth Oliver Turvey, Norman Nato completing the top 6. Then you get into sort of the big hitters, let's say. Jean-Eric Vergne's going to have a strong afternoon. The 2 Nissans of Roland and Buemi right there in 8th and 9th positions. Sergio Seti's camera got shuffled down to 10th. Sims and Da Costa in 11th and 12th position. And then you've got Pascal Wehrlein down in 13th place. He was the best qualifier from Group 1. Championship leader Nick de Vries will start 23rd thanks to a 3-place grid drop. Will any of the top 6 in the championship score points this afternoon? So, a really remarkable qualifying session so far this season. Jake Dennis had the worst average qualifying performance of anyone. It wasn't quite hooking up. He wasn't able to take part in qualifying in one of the races. He got wiped out in free practice ahead of the first race in Rome. But now he will start at the front of the grid for the DHL Valencia E-Prix.
Give me that hat.
He's not happy with his hair. I think it's great hair. What do I know about hair?
There you go.
But Jake doesn't like it, that's for sure. Walking up towards the podium position where we'll then be speaking to him, talking to Nicky. This is the pole position lap. Down towards turn 1. Through the left. You can see how dry it is now compared to the start of the session. It's almost bone dry up at turn 2 here. Over the curbs on the exit. Now into the double right of 4 and 5. Right up to the gravel on the exit as well. Neat and it's all just neat and tidy, isn't it, from Dennis? There's barely any correction. Here's turn 8, which is one of the trickiest on the circuit. This is where we've seen a lot of drivers sliding and having to correct. There's a little snap for Dennis, but goes wide and then sort of aims for the exit, really, rather than anything else. Good commitment through the right-hander of 10. And at this point, he was already 6 tenths of a second up. Final chicane, the right left. And that is how you take pole position, your first pole position in Formula E.
Jake Dennis, huge congratulations, your first pole position. It's turning out to be a rather good weekend after the points scored yesterday as well.
Yeah, I am so happy, you know, it's such a relief after a difficult start to the season to now obviously put everything together. It's the first weekend where we haven't had any issues, and we've put it on pole for race 2 in Valencia. Super happy, and mega job by everyone at the team. You know, we worked so hard from last night over to today, and made the positive changes.
Well, the hard work is about to really kick in. Lift the trophy, the Julius Baer Pole Position trophy. Congratulations.
So the Julius Baer pole position for Jake Dennis, he gets 3 points for that as well, and he will start the DHL Valencia E-Prix on pole position later this afternoon. It's going to be a remarkable race. So, Jake Dennis, pole position, beat Andre Lotterer by 0.8 of a second, a 1 minute 29.4 for the Porsche driver. He's on the front row once again.
Andre Lotterer, congratulations. Another front row start for you. Brilliant third sector there.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, for sure it was a bit easier for us in Group 4 with the drying conditions and being at the end there. Still would have preferred to be on pole, but I take it, and hopefully we'll have a good race.
Thanks very much. Congratulations.
So Lotterer, yet to score points actually this season, and he's now the only driver yet to score points, Andre Lotterer. Retired from the race yesterday. His best finish was 11th in the second race in Diriyah, but surely starting from second on the grid, he can get some on the board. Started second on the grid in Rome race 1, but a collision on the first lap with Stoffel van Dorn led to a time penalty, and that dropped him down the field. But the German, starting at the front this time, has a really good opportunity to take the victory for Porsche, who are still looking for their first win in Formula E. Third on the grid, Alex Lynn.
Congratulations, third on the
Alex,
grid.
congratulations.
What's the strategy going to be for today's race?
What's the strategy going to be for today's race?
We need to go and discuss that, but obviously this morning was just about executing. We really needed to do that and stick the car up the front again. Like Andre said, we got lucky with the conditions, but you have to take that sometimes. But to be honest, it's all business this afternoon. We need to take care of it.
And you've got the race pace to match the sort of competitors that you're going to be driving around?
I think we've hopefully got what it takes to produce a good result. So from that side, just fully focused now on this afternoon.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Really focused guy, Alex Lynn, isn't he? And he's going to start the race in third position. His best performance, his best qualifying performance for the Mahindra team. And he is looking to take his first career podium, because although he's had a pole position before, Alex Lynn, his best ever race result in 31 starts is a 5th position, which is sort of entirely unrepresentative of his qualifying pace. So Jake Dennis on pole, Lotterer second, Lynn in third, Blomqvist 4th, Turvey 5th, Nato Verne, Roland Buemi and Sete Camara the top 10, with Sims in 11th position and Antonio Felix da Costa in 12th spot. And then you've got all of the championship leaders a lot further down the order. It's going to be a really fascinating afternoon. The championship is going to get mixed up a lot. De Vries, you'd have thought, will still be leading it. Let's go and join Vernon.
Thanks, Jack. I'm with Alan McNish. Alan, welcome. The sun is shining, my friend.
I know, it's the first time I've seen the sun. It's been the rain for the last few days, but I think we're all happy there's a bit of sunshine coming out now.
Well, a Scotsman like yourself, I think you're going to need factor 50, right?
I'm very much used to this sort of weather. But when we were splashing around in the rain yesterday, then it certainly wasn't what we expected coming to Spain, that's for sure.
Difficult starting positions for you guys on the grid, but you've proven that you've got the car, you've got the pace to climb through that grid throughout the race.
Yeah, certainly efficiency-wise, and today will be all about managing your energy, as it was actually, as it turned out yesterday. It's something that is in our favour, it's something we're good at, but at the same time, I think we've got 2 drivers that understand how to make it work. And obviously from where we are, it's not going to be easy, but then again, we've seen in races up till now in this season that you can always come back through into some points.
I was going to ask about that, Alan, because you know, yesterday I thought the two Envision version cars, who are of course your customers, they were very good on efficiency. And has that given you a bit of confidence for, you know, obviously you guys had a tricky day yesterday, but that must give you guys a bit of confidence for today as well?
Yeah, Karun, we've worked very, very hard. It's a new powertrain for this season, and it's one that we worked to try to make sure we controlled every aspect of it from start to finish. And a key focus was improving the weight of it and also the efficiency. So we knew right from our initial testing that we were actually in good shape. But it's good to see it proven against everybody else, because at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. But there I feel that we are in good shape. What is obviously, as we said, making it tricky was where we are with the group stages as it ran out today for different reasons.
But you've got good company down there, and you've got the two Mercedes EQ cars and Sam Bird, you know, the top three in the championship.
It's brilliant.
All down there with Lucas. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, you know, Jack's rev limiter will be off the chart, I think.
Yeah, it's great entertainment.
I was going to say, sorry, it's one of these things that's good that you are out, but you're never out. You can always come back into it. And in these situations, I don't think you're going to have a situation where there's somebody just dominating at the front. They're going to be bouncing in and out of good qualifyings, good races. And when we get to the final races of the season in London and Berlin, then, you know, I'm sure there's still going to be about 10 drivers that are in within the fight.
Alan, just give us some insight into team strategy on a track like this, because we're used to racing in inner cities, on street circuits, tight street circuits. This is an actual racetrack. So how does your strategy change for today's race?
Well, first of all, from a car setup point of view, then you have to think a little bit differently, because it's very smooth and normally it's quite bumpy. We saw that in Rome. The cars were in the air. The only time the car's in the air here is when they get hit by another one. But in that respect, then just the suspension setup is a little bit more stiff. It's a little bit less compliant, shall we say. And that also gives it a bit more stability and efficiency. And at the same time as well, from the driving and the race strategy, then they have to think about momentum. So from Karun, you know it from racing in Formula E, but also just it's like a Formula 3. It's a momentum formula in that respect. And if you can keep that momentum up, then it helps you on your energy efficiency as well. And so therefore there's a bit of slipstream going on.
How much energy do you save when you slipstream? Because we've talked about that a lot. We hear Jack and Karun talking about the slipstream. How much energy do you actually save?
Well, I'm not going to give you the number, but I can tell you it's enough to do it.
Right.
And if it's enough to do it, then you will do it.
Then you put it into the algorithm and the equation.
Your guy's going to have 20 of them
But
in front
that's
of
the thing, is if you're at the front, are you going to let somebody pass the slipstream them? Yes, you may do that, but you've got to be very careful how it plays out. Certainly from where we are on the grid in 14th for Rennie, for example, he's right in the middle of that slipstream train. So it's a bit like being in the peloton in the Tour de France. You just get carried along with it. And then it puts you in a position potentially at the end of the race, last few laps, that you can actually use that extra energy to overtake.
If we were in a peloton, I'd rather be behind him. I mean, look at the advantage there.
Behind me?
Yeah, exactly. It's no use being behind you.
Well, look at these pins. I mean, one rotation with my legs is, what, 5 of yours?
7 of his.
Thank you very much, guys. That's why I was a racing driver, not a cyclist.
Yeah, exactly. Alan, it's a pleasure as always. It really is. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, let's go over to Nikki, who's with one of the drivers from Team Neo, I do believe.
I am indeed. I'm actually with both of the drivers from Neo 333, Tom Blomqvist and Oliver Turvey. Congratulations, P4 and P5. We just heard Alan McNish talking about the importance of slipstreaming. The fact that you guys are at the front but will still be able to benefit from slipstreaming, you're kind of in the perfect position.
Yeah, hopefully.
Is that the plan?
No, it's good to be back in Superpole again, and obviously I think it helped a bit by the track conditions, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be a dry race, so it's going to be critical, I think, the energy management this afternoon, and you know, hopefully we can get a clean start and break away.
And Tom, as well, you know, this is an opportunity to hopefully put more points on the board for the Neo team. Things have really turned around for the team this year, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a great start to the season. Obviously getting points in Riyadh and Rome. Yesterday was obviously a mixed one for a lot of the grid. But obviously we put ourselves now in a great position. Like Ollie said, yes, we got a bit fortunate with the weather conditions there, playing the part, but I mean, we're starting at the front. Hopefully, you know, the front and the very back is normally the safest place to be when it comes to the first lap or two. So hopefully that makes our life a little bit easier. But, you know, as you've mentioned, as everyone's mentioned, it's super critical around here with the energy. Yes, slipstream does help. But, I mean, I think for us, we just need to try and stay out of trouble, do our own race. You know, we think we've made progress on the energy management side. Hopefully, you know, as Jack said, he thinks we're going to be a bottleneck, but let's see.
Excellent.
So, yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, hopefully we have a clean race.
Staying out of trouble. Key words there. And fingers crossed, with the sun out, we're not going to be starting this race under the safety car. So good luck, guys, and congratulations. Enjoy that race.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
Why is Blomqvist calling me out? Like, yeah, okay, I said they're going to be a bottleneck, but come on, don't need to take it so personally, man. Chill out.
It's motor racing, Jack. Everything's personal.
Chill out.
I think it's because the sun's shining and we're not used to seeing it and it's gone to people's heads. Let's talk about the championship as a whole, Jack. We came into the weekend with Jaguar sat on the top of both drivers and teams championship. That's completely changed after yesterday. A lot of things have completely changed after yesterday. Where do you see this one panning out, bearing in mind where the Mercedes are?
Well, the Mercedes, they're starting a long way down the field. Nick de Vries is going to be starting 23rd on the grid because he's got a three-place grid drop, and I think it's going to be really, really tough for any of the top four in the championship to score any points. Pascal Wehrlein,
because of the efficiency, is that what you're talking about?
Just because of the length of the race and how far back they're starting. Even if they're good on efficiency, if you start 23rd, can you finish 10th? Van Dorn and Muller both set formulary records yesterday because they gained 20 and 21 places in the race. Now, that was obviously mainly because no one else finished. So gaining 20 positions is pretty much impossible. So it's what can everybody else do to bring themselves into championship contention? It's someone like Jean-Eric Vergne. If Vergne is starting 7th on the grid, if he can win, which I think is, you know, not impossible, he gets another 25 points. He's on 50 points. He's not far behind de Vries then. So it's what can other people do to get themselves into the championship fight?
Karun, in Rome...
Don't ask me to predict it.
Sorry?
Don't ask me to predict
no,
it.
No, I won't ask you to predict anything. Don't worry. One thing we talked a lot about, and Dario mentioned it several times, is racecraft.
Yep.
And the driver's racecraft. And now, because of the conditions, it's brightened up, it's getting dry. We're really going to see the drivers show us their racecraft around this track, in this car.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And this is a track also which is wide enough to overtake. You know, you guys were in Rome and you could see so many parts of the track were just narrow. So even if you were significantly quicker than the car in front or had more energy or even had attack mode, they couldn't get past. Whereas here, as soon as you get attack mode, you should be able to blitz past the car in front. You know, it's a wide enough circuit to do so. So I think it will be a very different race. You know, people like Lynn, people like Vergne that you mentioned, you know, who are starting in the top 10, who have the speed and efficiency to score big points, they need to make today count because the heavy hitters in the championship are way down the order.
Got to make hay.
Oh, he did. He just said that. That was Jack Nicholls, everyone. That's why he is paid so much money.
So much money.
So much money on this gig. All right, let's go over to Nikki, who's with our pole sitter.
Very exciting day for you, Jake Dennis. There's a lot of responsibility, though, that comes with starting from pole position. How are you feeling?
Yeah, at the moment I'm just taking it all in from obviously what's just happened. We've obviously made pole position. Super happy and relieved of a clean qualifying session. We put it together. It's so easy to make one small mistake and lose any bit of advantage you had. But you know, it was a good run, a good lap, and to now start pole position for the race. It's a good starting spot. You know, we're out of the war zone in the middle part. So yeah, hopefully we can have a clean first few laps and see where we're at in terms of the energy management halfway through the race.
And you don't have too many of the big contenders around you. Is that sort of a benefit, I suppose?
Oh, 100%. It's nice not to have the Costa right behind me or someone like this. So, but yeah, it won't take long for them to come through the field. But yeah, it's a mixed up field for sure, but it's going to create a lot of action, and the energy management, what all of us will need to do is quite severe. So
yeah,
it's going to be who's got the most energy in the last 5 laps.
Well, this is it. This is where you have to put everything that you've learned in your short formulary career into practice.
Exactly, yeah. I'll try and do the best job I can.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. Well done, Jake Dennis.
So, Jack, you threw Tom Blomqvist under the bus by saying that him and the Neo team were going to be bottle stoppers. You've just thrown Nick de Vries under the bus as well.
I've thrown him to the back of the grid by the sounds of it. He doesn't have a 3-place grid penalty. That's Mitch Evans has a 3-place grid drop. So de Vries will be starting in 20th place.
Well, let's talk about the Jags whilst we're here with Mitch Evans. It's not been the weekend they wanted, really, has it, so far?
They were excited coming in because this here, if you're out in Group 1 in Valencia, that's the best place to be in Group 1. So they were thinking, this is great. Then yesterday, they didn't get the car working at all in the first group of qualifying. Then today, qualifying's wet. And What can you do after today? If you're in Group 1, what can you do? There is nothing. There's, you know, they had no other choice.
Yeah, no
really.
chance.
No chance.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race, and we can't wait for it. The sun is shining. Track conditions have improved immensely since yesterday, because let's be honest, yesterday was horrific. The rain was an absolute nightmare for the drivers in the cars. Make sure you join us a little bit later on. Check local times for when we do go on air with our second round here in Valencia, the Valencia E-Prix.
Go!